Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and welcome to the 5th round of Season 2 of the GTA Online Multi-Class Endurance Championship. This round takes place on the Blaine County 24-hour racing circuit and will be using off-road vehicles with GT1 drivers in Biftas, GT2 drivers in Injections and GT3 drivers in Merryweather Mesas. So we are back on Blaine County 24 hours, which is the same track that hosted the first round of this championship. Now the difference is, it's raining, as you can see there. We have, for the 5th and 6th rounds of this 10 round championship, we do have 2 rain races, so the race is entirely in the wet. And that's just to mix it up a little bit. We don't want all races to be in clear weather. We do want to mix it up a little bit, have 2 rain races, just to, you can't really have a proper championship if you're not going to mix in some rain races along the way. So this is the first one of the 2 rain races that we have in the middle of the championship, and as per usual, we've got Shaggy in the lobby. Being our cameraman, we'll see some fantastic shots from him throughout the course of this video, but he takes us around the formation lap. We get into positions GT1, GT2, then GT3, ready for the start of the race. So that was obviously the start of the race from Shaggy's perspective, and now we've got it from mine. As you can see, I get a really good start. I get a great launch off the line from 3rd place straight into 2nd. So I start in 3rd place for this one, and it's one of the final rounds that I really have a decent starting position, but I'll come on to that later on. So I do try to get on the inside here of Shred, who's in the lead, but I just can't get it done. I don't have the overspeed, and he defends quite well into that corner. So at this point, I'm just consolidating the 2nd that I have and figuring out where the best place is to try and go for that lead. I've had a great start, I've done exactly what I needed to do. Would have been better if I'd got into the lead going into the first corner like I did in the first round, but to be into 2nd, that's great already, and everybody behind me will be fighting between themselves, and I'm trying to make sure that I don't get caught up in that. So coming around this corner, I get a decent run out around here, and I've already got in my mind planned what I'm going to do at this point. Basically what I try to do is just carry a little bit more speed round in this corner, get on the inside there as you can see, and get a really nice overtaking move done there. I really did. I am quite proud of that one. That was quite a nice move on the inside, just being able to carry the speed all around, and yeah, the gap opened up for me, so I was able to take the lead straight away. So that was a great first lap, obviously. Started in 3rd, got into 2nd, as we see from Shaggy's perspective, everybody coming through this part here. But great start for me straight away, straight into 2nd off the line from a great getaway off, from a standstill, and then able to get into 1st after one of the first few corners. So now I'm trying to push on. Now is the time when I really do need to make this count. The great start that I've had means nothing if I can't actually consolidate that position and try to drive away from people whilst everybody's battling behind me. So that's what I'm trying to do now, but Shred isn't going to make it easy for me. As you can see there, he is right behind me, and he stays right behind me for quite a lot of the way as well. So I am, it's now just like it always has been in previous videos, defense mode at this point, but I do want to make sure that I'm not over defending. I don't want to defend a bit too much and then lose time and get caught up with people behind. So I do try to take the normal lines in some areas where I know that an overtake isn't on, and I do manage to get a little bit of a gap coming into this section, which just makes me the tiniest little bit more comfortable than what I was. So here we are coming on to the 2nd lap at this point. Craig is in the lead, as you can see there, with VXWK95 close behind in 2nd, and then there is a little bit of a gap in the GT1 field to the chasing pack, as you can see coming through there. A bit of argy-bargy and a bit of incidents going on there, which we'll see, and then I come around in 1st place with a bit more of a gap than what I had the previous lap to Shred, who's in 2nd, and then there's an even bigger gap to the chasing pack of GT2 cars. So it's basically been the same story in GT1 and GT2. We will see that. I will show the different perspectives, but the top two have basically managed to get away a little bit, but they're still quite close together. We've got the bottom two in GT2, and then we'll have the leaders in the GT3 class all coming through very close together again. And this is on the second lap, so this is the same area where I got the overtake done on Shred on the first lap. This is that same part of the track, but on the second lap at this point. And now what we're going to do is basically go back and see how we got to this point, how we got these position changes, and how we got to the positions that we are right now in each of the classes. So obviously first up is GT1. Now starting in first place is Craig. He gets a good start, and so does VXWK95 on the right. He's my teammate on the Ron team. Basically it's a carbon copy of what happened for me. We've got Craig for Team E-Cola. Shred, who was in front of me, is also for Team E-Cola. And obviously VXWK95 and myself are both for the Ron team. And we both start third. Obviously, teams start in the same positions within each class. We both started in third, we both got a very good start, and were able to get up into second straight away. And now we're both hounding the leader in GT1, who is also for the E-Cola team. So it's basically a carbon copy of what happened in the GT2 class, and that extends a little bit further as well, as we'll see a bit later on. So at the moment, Craig is under pressure. He's trying to make sure he keeps this first place, and obviously VXWK is really going for first position, and he does get a good run out of this corner, as you can see, and tries to go for the inside here as well, but unfortunately it just doesn't come off. He loses a bit of speed there when he gets a bit of a slide on because of the wet conditions, and that pretty much stays how it was for the rest of the lap. Now further back in the GT1 field, we've got obviously Chris D on the left, who gets a really good start and overtakes two people, and Hizen on the right, who's going for an overtake on Jonty on the inside of the first corner, which actually does come off, so he manages to get up into, I believe that's fourth place at this point. So this is where it gets really interesting for the GT1 field, because all of the cars that are behind what we've just seen from Craig and VXWK really do have a good battle going on between them, and it really just allows the top two in the GT1 field to get away from each other, and that's basically a carbon copy of what happens in GT2 as well, which we'll see. So as you can see, there's pretty much four cars all going for this same corner. Jonty makes a really good overtake there on the inside, very opportunistic, and is able to get ahead of Steak Sauce on the left there, who was a reserve driver. Meanwhile, just behind, Chris is also managing to get ahead of Hizen. As you can see there, it's very hectic, especially in these wet conditions with Biftas. It is quite hectic, because any small loss of speed, like you just saw there for example, can really affect you in getting back up to speed as well, and it's very easy to have a little bit of an oversteer moment in these conditions with these cars. That's a very easy thing to do, so you've got to be perfect all the time. So coming on to the end of the long straight, Chris has managed to just get ahead of Steak Sauce there, and is going after Jonty, who's currently in third place, and Hizen is just behind this pack, with a few GT1 cars behind him as well. So while all of these guys are battling, obviously the top two in GT1, Craig and VXWK, are managing to pull a bit of a gap to all of these guys. They're able to just put in good lap times themselves and get away, because they don't have to battle with the people who are all behind them. Now if you look on the right hand side for Hizen, you can see that Steak Sauce is lagging a little bit, and that ends up being a bit of a nightmare for Hizen, as you can see here, where he just runs him into the sign. Now that's just a consequence of lag, there's not a lot any of them could have done about that. It was a shame, but that means that Hizen is put to the back of the pack, and it was lucky really that he manages to get going again before I came around that corner in the lead of GT2. So now we're back for the third place fight in GT1. We've got Chris following Jonty. Obviously Chris wants to get ahead to try and then put some quick lap times in and catch up to the two leaders like he did in the previous round. Now when you're overtaking, you've obviously got to do it cleanly, and sometimes lag is involved. Now as we come down here, you'll see that Chris just knocks a little bit on the side of Jonty, spins him around, which is very easy to do in these cars, causes a little bit of a cluster here. But if you notice on the right hand side of Jonty's view, Abe Gunners goes all the way around the outside of that incident. So whilst all the other GT1 cars kind of got caught up in that, Abe Gunners had, you know, the really good awareness there to go all the way around the outside and get into that third place. So that was basically, you know, it was just an incident. You know, these incidents happen. It's racing. That's what happens. But it's meant that the two leaders in GT1 have been able to gain even more of a gap over this chasing pack. And it's also meant that Hizen has been able to catch up to the pack as well after his initial incident earlier on. So these guys are all still very close, all still battling. Now just ahead of Chris, you can see that Steak Sauce is still lagging a little bit and having a few issues. And as you'll see here, you know, this is where it causes all the incidents. He's in a different place for different people. He's basically having so many connection issues at this point, causing a bit of a nightmare. And that's what we saw from Shaggy's perspective in the previous clip. He does end up disconnecting in a few seconds, which is probably understandable, but he came in as a reserve driver. It's a shame that he wasn't able to continue with a better connection, but you know, that's just racing sometimes on GTA. So yeah, it's caused this pack to be quite close together. Now on the right hand side you've got Hizen, who's going for an overtake on Ryan here on the inside. He does manage to get a nice overtake on the inside there, really nice move. And Jonty is still he's in 4th place at the moment, obviously behind Abe, who took advantage of that situation earlier. Makes a little bit of a mistake though, as you can see there, allows Chris to get up into 4th, and then Hizen comes through and overtakes him as well. So very, very hectic first couple of laps for GT1. That's 2 laps over with in GT1. Obviously very, very hectic with lagging cars and incidents that are happening through spinning people around and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's what these cars and these conditions have lent themselves towards. So now we're going to focus on GT2 from two different perspectives. Obviously we've got Pad and Ice on the left. You can see me getting my good start there, and then Zenzi on the right, who also gets a good start and makes up a position as well. So it's interesting how this is basically a carbon copy of what happened in GT1. So you know, you could obviously, I'm in the Ron team, and I'm following Shred, who's in the E-Cola team, as I mentioned before, and it's basically exactly the same as what happened with Craig and VXWK. You know, VXWK, my teammate, managed to get up into 3rd place, 2nd place, sorry, from 3rd, and then chases down Craig, who was in the lead of GT1. I'm doing exactly the same thing, just ahead of Pardanias here, you know, chasing down the leader of GT2. The difference is I managed to get into the lead, but ultimately the same sort of thing happens. And the same sort of thing happens behind as well, as you'll see from especially Zenzi's perspective, but also Pardanias' later on as well. The chasing pack aren't able to stick with the 2 leaders. So in GT1 we had, you know, there you go, you can see Zenzi just getting ahead of Nismo there. The chasing pack are all battling with each other, just like they were in GT2, you know, having those incidents, just like they were in GT1, sorry, you know, they were having those incidents, overtaking each other, generally basically slowing each other down, and that allowed Craig and VXWK in GT1 to create a bit of a gap. And that's exactly what happens in GT2 as well. As we'll see, myself and Shred are able to create a bit of a gap because we aren't getting in each other's way. We're running at decent pace at the front, you know, we're not overtaking each other, slowing each other down. I'm able to keep just a little bit of ahead of Shred throughout most of the first couple of laps as well, which also helps both of us really just be able to keep that pace up. Whereas behind, you know, all of the other guys are battling with each other, causing each other to slow down. So just I need to point out, in the GT2 class we have had 2 replacement drivers as permanent drivers. So unfortunately Doodle Monopoly has had to quit the championship. He obviously won on the Los Santos Grand Prix, and we had that great battle on Olympic Grand Prix in round 3 as well. I think he was 2nd in the championship when he's ended up leaving, which is a shame to lose him. But he's basically been replaced by Nismo, who obviously we know from previous episodes is just as quick. So it's a like for like change there. So Nismo is now for the Cockatoos team, replacing Doodle. Obviously we've got a great battle there with Nismo and Zenzi on the right hand side. And also Jay Solon has left in the GT2 field for the LSDWP team, and he's been replaced by Amarogko as a permanent replacement, who we also saw some footage from in the previous episode. So just wanted to let you know about those two changes. It's a shame that we've had to have some permanent replacements there, but obviously real life matters. Just, you know, obviously always take precedence over something like this. So it should be interesting, you know, as the championship continues, to see how Nismo does in a permanent spot in GT2 as well. And at the moment he's in a battle in 4th place, as you can see there, just ahead of Zenzi. So obviously Zenzi makes his return as well after not being here last week. And we do have actually all the drivers that we needed to have, no replacements in GT2, which is not what we had in the last round, so that's pretty good. Now, as you can see, you know, this is where they all start to slow each other down a little bit. Obviously, Pardanias is doing his best to defend, which is what he needs to do, and that's what I'd be doing as well. And it's basically Zenzi's trying to have a go at Nismo, you know, as you can see in some areas. That just makes all of them a little bit slower than what they could be. And as you can see, you know, they've already lost sight of myself and Shred going around the corners, because we've been able to put some reasonably good lap times in, get some good corners down without any interruptions, whereas they're all battling with each other, you know, going for overtakes. Sometimes they aren't coming off, and that slows both cars down. You've got to be smart about it when you're overtaking, you know. You can't just go for overtakes on every single corner, because it will I'm not saying that these guys are doing that, but just in general, you know, it will slow both of you down, and that just means that you don't have as much of a chance to get a good result, even if you do get ahead of someone. So as you can see here, Nismo makes a little bit of an error there, and Zenzi is able to get alongside him and ahead of him to move up into 4th place. But it's basically, you know, the same story as in GT1. The top two in the same teams as what the GT1 drivers were have managed to get away, and we've got the three behind battling, but it is a little bit more clean than what we did see in the GT1 class, because we don't really have anybody lagging or knocking anybody off or anything like that. So a little bit later on into this second lap, we see that Zenzi is pressuring Pardanias at this point. You know, Pardanias is doing a great job of defending as well, keeping this 3rd position. But as we round this hairpin, Zenzi gets a bit of a better exit, as you can see there, and is able to just gradually get ahead of Pardanias into the next corner, and takes that 3rd position, and then sets about trying to catch up to myself and Shred, who are in the lead, and very close together at the lead as well. So later on that same lap, Pardanias makes a little bit of a mistake, going a little bit too wide in that corner, allows Nismo to get up on the inside, and that's Nismo now into 4th place. So then you've got Zenzi in 3rd, Nismo in 4th. Obviously, they both want to chase the leading two of myself and Shred, but they're obviously going to start battling with each other as well, as we'll see. So in GT3 now, and we've got James Nash on the left for Vapor Pegassi team, and 40 on the right for Team Overflood. 40 actually won the first round on this track back a few weeks ago, and this is, you know, incredibly hectic as well. You know, look at how many cars are going into this first corner. It's crazy, and especially, you know, the GT3 class has a lot of character to it, really, because you've got such a wide variety of different cars. You know, we had the Patriot, which were huge, big, bulking things in the 3rd round, and then in the previous round, in the 4th round on the North Loop, they were driving Surges, which are exactly the opposite of that. Now they're back again to the big Merryweather Mesas, which, you know, they're just, there's a lot of character to the GT3 cars, and although they are the slowest class, they're probably some of the more fun to drive. So as you can see there on the left, James Nash took advantage of that little incident there between Alucard and Smithy. Now he's up into 2nd place, chasing down Thel, who started on pole position for the E-Cola team, and just behind, as you can see, you know, 40 is at the back of this very long train of big Merryweather Mesas, who are all going at it to try and make up any position that they can. And obviously in the wet as well, you know, it's very difficult. There's a lot less grip in the wet. You can't run lap times that you would in the dry, obviously, but you've just got to be a little bit more careful. So as you can see here, you know, Smithy gets in front of Alucard there, and Alucard ends up getting turned around, and that causes a bit of a cluster in this area, as you can see from both perspectives there. Bit of a nightmare there. which is, you know, similar to what happened in the GT1 class on that other corner. But as we get into here, you know, Alucard loses a few positions. 40 manages to get ahead of him as well, and just ahead of this we've got James Nash going for the lead on Thel, which he does manage to get briefly here anyway by getting along the inside there, but runs a bit wide there, and Thel is able to get back alongside, and Smithy is right behind as well. So it's a three-way battle for first, second and third, all going into this corner. Smithy does a really nice move right around the outside, carries the speed around to get into second place, and now chases after Thel, who's in the lead. And then just behind, you know, you've got Tyler Durden, Double and 40 all going for 4th, 5th and 6th. So two battles with 3 cars in each, and it's very, very close in all of them. Now obviously Smithy is pushing for the lead, as you can see there just on the left. Smithy's going for the lead on Thel, and James Nash is kind of just sitting here biding his time, just watching a little bit, seeing what happens. And the same thing for 40 on the right as well, you know, he's just behind these two in front, just biding his time a little bit, seeing what happens. With Double in front of him, you'll notice that as we come around this next set of corners, he makes a little bit of a mistake by going into the barrier on the left hand side, and basically that puts him pretty much all the way to the back of the GT3 class. Here it is there, you know, causes 40 to get knocked a little bit, but make just a tiny mistake by running a little bit wide, hits the barrier, and that puts him all the way to the back. Now I just wanted to point that out just for future reference, that Double has made that mistake and is reasonably far behind, because he does come into it later on in the race. Now just ahead of James Nash, as you can see there, you know, Smithy is still going for the lead. Thel makes a little bit of a mistake, and James Nash is able to get into the lead. Really fortuitous. You know, you love it when something like that happens. If you're chasing two guys, one makes a mistake, the other one gets caught up in it. That's absolutely perfect. You know, that's all you want. So James Nash now has Smithy right behind him. You might be able to see it on the mini map, but basically what happens as we come into this section, I think Smithy catches the inside a little bit too much and makes a mistake, and you'll see him on 40's view there just in front. You know, he's dropped back a little bit behind Thel. So at the moment we've got James Nash in the lead with Thel in second, Smithy in third, and now 40 is just overtaking Tyler Durden there for 4th. But the car of the steak sauce, who was the GT1 driver who was lagging around, his car is still there, as you've seen there on 40's perspective. So obviously when he disconnected, the car was still moving, which was a bit of a shame, and caused 40 to lose a few positions there. So to recap where we are, we've got Craig in the lead of GT1. Now this is on the 3rd lap. He's got a big lead ahead of VXWK95, who's in 2nd, followed by Abe Gunners, who's still in 3rd, with Chris D22, Hizen, John T and Mayor Ryan all following close behind, and Massacre Mace as well. So all 8, well, apart from the leader Craig, the other 7 drivers who are still left in the GT1 field are all very, very close together, all still battling it out. Now there is a big gap obviously between the GT1 cars and the first GT2 driver, which is myself coming through now, but Shred is still right on my ass, you know, very, very close. But again, we've got a big gap to the chasing GT3 cars, who are all battling with each other, as we saw. So Zenzi and Nismo, you know, they're going at it now. They're very close, with Pardanias just behind, and Cam Cullen just behind him as well. So again, you know, it's the same sort of thing. You've got the lead driver or the lead 2 drivers out in front, and then you've got the chasing pack just behind. And there is a reasonable gap between them, but there's also a reasonable gap between each of the classes, as you're seeing here. Before we get to, these are actually the 2 last guys in GT2, and then we've got the leaders in GT3. Obviously James Nash there, followed by Thel, and then Smithy will be coming along again. So it's the gaps between all of the classes are actually quite good for this track. You know, the leaders in GT1 are significantly quicker than the leaders in GT2, who are also significantly quicker than the leaders in GT3. That's why you get these big gaps you know, between all of the classes, and that's really how you want multi-class racing to be. But we do have some rounds in the future, for example specifically the next round, but the next 3 rounds basically all have cars that are very close to each other on performance. So they are still individual classes, but they are going to be very close on performance, so you won't be seeing quite as much lapping or gaps in between. So that will be quite interesting to see, but obviously we'll deal with that in the later rounds and the videos that we get from that. Now this is a great shot, I thought. You know, this is a fantastic shot. You get all this hairpin. Obviously you get the cars with the headlights on coming all the way down this long straight around the hairpin. Obviously the battle is going on. You see an overtake there as well, into the left section, and you see them all the way around that left hand section as well, going back through. And I just thought that was a great shot, and especially on the next clip that we'll see, night time has fallen at this point, on the next clip that we see, and it just looks fantastic, especially with the headlights and the neon lights as well that some cars have. It looks great, and the lighting of Sandy Shores as well. Since the Heist update, we've had better lighting all round, I think, and especially with the rain as well, causing a lot of different light effects. It just looks fantastic. So as you can see there, you know, I'm going through. I've got a little bit more of a gap at this point to Shred. We're about, you know, half an hour into the race here. I have managed to pull a little bit of a gap ahead of Shred Ninja there, and obviously that gap between him and Zenzi and Nismo is still reasonably large as well. So it's looking good for me at this point. You know, I'm managing to stay in the lead, but just that shot, you know, it just looks fantastic. The lighting effects, and you know, all the way down the right hand side you can see the headlights. It just looks great, and I think Blaine County 24 Hours, the same in the first round is the same in this round, that it really did provide some of the best cinematic shots from Shaggy's perspective. I would say it was really fantastic. So here we are again. You know, at this point Thel has managed to get ahead of James Nash there, and Smithy has unfortunately disconnected. So he was very quick, you know, he probably would have been fighting for the lead. Unfortunately he ended up disconnecting, and you know, that's the order of the GT3 class that we've just seen there. And obviously Double had managed to make up a few positions and get back in front of Tyler Durden as well. So it's still quite close with the GT3 cars, you know. I believe James Nash had made a little bit of a mistake which managed to allow Thel to get back ahead, but they are still very close together, and we will see a bit more of that battle later on. But I just wanted to show some of these cinematic shots because they are absolutely great. And as we come into this part of the race, we are actually getting some cars getting lapped. So we've got some GT1 cars coming up to lap some of the GT3 cars, sorry. And we have a bit of an incident there, as you can see. But John T obviously waits for his in there after basically knocking him off. So all of this stuff is always happening, you know, throughout the course of the entire race. You've always got little things like this, whether we get them on camera or on, you know, on any footage of them or not. You know, you don't necessarily always get everything, but it's always interesting to see that so many different things are happening throughout the course of the race. So whilst we watch some of these shots from Shaggy's perspective, I'm going to just leave quite a few shots in here because there are some brilliant ones, and it does always seem like Blaine County 24 Hours provides the best shots. The ones that you'll see are basically the GT2 and GT1 cars are all starting to come to that point of the race where they're overtaking each other and lapping each other. And as you can see here, you know, I'm passing just through here now, and I'm coming up to lap my first GT3 car. So it's all an interesting mix, and I do have still a decent gap to Shred. So my race has gone really well so far. You know, the first couple of laps I wasn't really setting great lap times because I was just settling into the race. But after that, you know, I was able to really get the hammer down, set some really good lap times, and yeah, after the disappointment of sort of last round, you know, obviously Nismo's got ahead of Zenzi, by the way, there, as you can see, but after the disappointment of last round, you know, I was really down at one stage where I was saying, you know, I just don't have the pace of other people and all that kind of stuff. I've definitely bounced back in this round, and I've been able to put in some really quick lap times. We'll see at the end the sort of lap time that I get, but also I've been able to drive away at the front, which has been really encouraging, especially for this race. So this race has gone well so far, and I'm just hoping I can sort of continue on that. Now, I wasn't actually looking at the timing system, so I didn't know that I was pulling away. Well, I knew that I was pulling away based on the mini-map, but I didn't know how much I was pulling away because I wasn't actually looking at the timing. And that's just something that I choose not to do, you know. I prefer not to look at the timing system. especially if I'm in the lead. You know, I'm just not really bothered. You know, why do you need to look at the time that you have to someone? You're only putting yourself under more pressure. So I was just focusing on, you know, doing my thing at the front of the race. You know, just going ahead, trying my best to pull away, and just focusing on getting those good lap times in. Now, a quick word about my championship as well. So far, you know, in the previous 4 rounds, I've managed to win. I've managed to win 3 races, so it's gone really, really well. Obviously, Dodo won the other race on Los Santos Grand Prix. It is unfortunate that he's had to leave the championship, but obviously Nismo is just another quick replacement, so it makes no difference. But it is, you know, it's gone really, really well, and I think a lot of people weren't expecting that from me, you know. But when I'm able to feel comfortable with what I'm doing in the car or the track, and I actually put some practice in as well, you know, I don't race anywhere near as much as these guys. I just don't have the time to do it on a regular basis. When I'm actually able to put the practice in and you know, really get to grips with the car and the track, I can actually do quite well. So the championship so far has gone really well. I am going to talk a little bit more about that in future episodes, obviously the later episodes where it starts to become a little bit more apparent. But if you want to check the championship standings at any point, obviously check the link in the first line of the description. That's where all the information is for this championship. So as you saw there on the map, I just wanted to leave that shot of the map in there just to show you kind of what it was like from a top-down perspective, a race like this on such a sort of long track. But as you saw, there was a big clump of guys that we saw there on the map, and this is them coming through now. That is actually the battle for the lead in GT3, and we're going to pick up with that now. As you can see here, we've got Thel 46 ahead of James Nash and then 40 just behind. Now as we're going into this section, James Nash gets a really good overtake done on the inside here. Nice opportunistic move. He manages to get up into first place. Obviously he was in first place earlier, but then he made a mistake and dropped into second. And that was a really good move there. You know, again, it was great that we had that outside shot of these guys going past. We had seen them on the map as well, and then you'll see them on this shot as well. Now this is an absolutely incredible shot. I can't believe how good this is. But basically, those are the two last guys in GT2, and then we've got the 3 leaders in GT3 going past. So still very close. Obviously now at this point, James Nash is in the lead. Thel 46 in second and 40 in third. What a shot this is. This is absolutely great. But we will come back to that in a second, but we're going to pick back up with the GT3 battle just a little bit later on. Again, we're on board with 40 here. Following Thel, who's currently in second. James Nash has managed to pull away a little bit at the lead of this pack now, and Thel makes a little bit of a mistake there, and 40 puts him right again. You know, at least that was nice of him to do, but manages to get back into second place. So that's how the GT3 battle has unfolded. We've now got James Nash in the lead of 40 with Thel in third, and we'll see that on sort of the next shot where we see them all go through. Now I'm coming through this shot as well, and I just wanted to leave this in just because what a shot this is, especially in the rain. You can see them all. You can see cars come all the way on the right hand side, and as you can see, you know, that's the gap that I have to shred at this point. About an hour into the race, it has extended, so I am pretty comfortable. I was putting up the timing screen for the people in the stream, but I still wasn't actually looking at it even at this point. And another great shot again here. As you can see, you know, there's the battle in GT3. We've got James Nash just in front of 40, with Thel still in third, sorry. But we've also got Double there, as you can see. You know, Double S92 is still there in 4th place. He's managed to work his way back up, and whilst the 3 front men in GT3 have been battling with each other, he's managed to gradually catch up after that initial mistake that we saw earlier. So he's done a good recovery even just up to now to come into 4th place. And obviously, as you can see there, you know, I'm coming through the picture now, just gradually working my way up to these GT3 cars. So the leaders in the leader in GT2, which is myself, is coming up to lap the leaders in GT3. And if you saw there, that was Craig going through as well, who is the leader in GT1. So it's getting quite hectic at this point. You know, it's starting to get to an interesting phase of the race. We're getting to the latter stages of the race now as well. This is where it's getting a little bit critical. So this is the perfect setup. You know, this shot is the perfect setup for what we're about to see, because near the end of that lap that we've just seen, we've got myself on the right there for the leader of GT2, and Craig, who is the leader of GT1, on the left. Now this is just some stream footage from me, just because I wanted to put them both together. And actually I did have some problems with the raw footage from this, which was a bit of a shame that I can't bring you as much footage. But you know, it was a pretty boring race from my perspective anyway. I was just out front. But this is one of the most interesting laps that we have throughout the course of the race. So as you saw in the previous shot, you know, I'm coming up to the leading pack in GT3. But behind me, I've also got the leader in GT1, which is Craig, who you're seeing now on both perspectives. And this is showing the speed differential as well between the two classes. Obviously, I play it smart. I just come off the accelerator a little bit, allow Craig to go past. But it's nowhere near over yet at this point. You know, there's still other cars for us to overtake. Obviously, Craig shoots off as he would, but the GT3 field is still just ahead of us, and that's something that we've both got to negotiate. Obviously, he's you know, got a comfortable lead as well in GT1. I've got a comfortable lead in GT2, but we don't want any unforeseen errors or any unnecessary problems that are going to cost us a lot of time. So as you can see on the left, you know, Craig is coming up to lap his first GT3 car. I believe it's Thel, I think. So this is where it gets, you know, quite critical. And for the GT1 cars, it's probably a lot easier to lap the GT3 cars. You know, as you can see there, he's able to just fly right past Thel. Whereas when I come up to overtake Thel, it's a little bit more difficult. And that's because I'm in a GT2 car. It's a bit slower. Obviously, all the GT1 cars are always lapping people. They lap the GT2 cars, they lap the GT3 cars. Now, the GT3 cars are always getting lapped. So, you know, they get lapped by the GT1 cars more often than they get lapped by the GT2 cars, but they get lapped by everybody. And this was actually the first point in the race where I actually looked at the timing system and realised how much of a gap I had. So I was pretty happy at that point. But as you can see, you know, on the left hand side, you can see that Craig is overtaking Double now at this point, who has managed to get ahead of Thel. So Double is up into third. But he's just able to fly straight past him, whereas on the right hand side, you'll see from my perspective that it's a little bit more difficult for me to overtake Thel. And that's just because in GT2 you're getting overtaken by GT1 cars, you're also having to overtake GT3 cars, so it's a bit of both, but also your pace is closer to both of them. You know, the GT1 cars find it harder to overtake the GT2 cars than they do the GT3 cars, just because they're going quicker. You know, but it's a problem. You know, GT2, you've really got to be thinking when you're in GT2. You've got to be making sure that you don't lose time when you get overtaken by people, and you've got to make sure that you don't lose time when you're overtaking people as well. And that's what I like about this class. You know, that's why I chose it initially, because it's just something a little bit extra. As you've seen there, you know, Craig has managed to get ahead of 40. I've managed to get ahead of Double. So we're doing okay. You know, we're making the right decisions. We're not making any stupid decisions. We're just able to get the overtakes done when we need to get them done. I'm aware also that just behind me at this point is Chris, who's in second place for GT1. He's managed to overtake Abe Gunners, who's now in third. So just behind me is Chris. So I've just overtaken two GT3 cars, but now I have to make sure that I don't lose too much time when I get overtaken by a GT1 car. And that's what I do. You know, I just sort of go a little bit wide in this corner, allow him on the inside, and that's job done. Whereas Craig has been able to get ahead of the leader in GT1, which was James Nash. So I just thought that was a really interesting lap of the circuit, where you've got all the leaders in all of the classes all lapping each other at the same point, and it leads itself to this really great shot. From Shaggy's perspective, this is literally just after what we've seen. Craig goes by in the lead of GT1. In the lead of GT3, you've got James Nash there. Then you've got 40, who's second place in GT3, followed by Chris, who's second place in GT1, then myself, who's first place in GT2, then you've got Double, who's third place in GT3, and Thel, who's fourth place in GT3 as well. So I just thought that was a really interesting period of the race, where you've got, you know, the leaders in all of the classes all overtaking each other at the same time near the end of the race, and all very, very close to each other as well, going past the start line in very, very close proximity. So we're getting into the latter stages of the race. This is in the second to last lap at this point. As you can see there, Shred just gets held up a little bit just in front of Nismo by the GT3 car of Thel. That is just bound to happen, you know, from a race perspective, or you may catch traffic at the wrong moment, something like that. That's going to happen throughout the course of one race, or even the course of a championship as well. But Nismo manages to hang it around the outside there, as you saw, and get the inside move on Shred just there. So these guys are battling it out for second place in GT2. Nismo's managed to catch up to Shred, but I'm still pulling away from both of them at this point. And now he gets the move done. So Nismo has managed to get up into second place in GT2 after initially getting ahead of Shred as well. And just as that's happening, we have Craig coming across the line in first place for GT1, winning the race. And Chris isn't too far behind him as well in second, as you saw there. So that was literally just happening all at the same time. And then I come across the line to start my last lap. So obviously, you know, I've been overtaken by the two GT1 cars. I've been lapped by those guys. So they've finished their race, but I still have one more lap to go. Now at this point, you know, I have a huge gap to the guys behind. I'm aware that Nismo has now managed to get ahead of Shred, but I'm still extending that lead all the time. And I don't need to worry, you know, I've got such a huge gap. It's about 30 seconds, the gap. I don't need to do anything special. I can just chill out, you know, take it easy this last lap, really ease off the pace, just, you know, bring it home. I've got two GT2 cars in front of me, so I've lapped all of the GT3 cars at this point. I'm coming up to lap the last two guys in GT2. As it happens, you know, I don't need to do that. This is the last lap, this is the last few corners of the last lap for me. There's no need for me to get involved in their battle. They're still fighting it out. I don't want to interrupt that or ruin that. I don't want to certainly try and overtake them and then have an accident myself. There's no need for me to do it. So I basically just hang back behind them, let them have their battle in front, and then just bring it home to the finish. So for me, this has been a fantastic race. I've just managed to get ahead at the start, you know, get into first position on the first lap, and then be able to drive away. It wasn't necessarily that easy, but I was able to put in some really quick lap times as well. And by the end of the race, I actually had the best lap in GT2, so that's a real big confidence booster as well after what happened in the last round. So as you can see there, you know, managed to bring home the win, get their first place in GT2 and run Shaggy over right at the same time as well. Couldn't finish a race better than that. So there is one more story to tell in GT3. This is for last place in the race. We've had a few disconnections, obviously, as we always do, but I think this is for 6th and 7th place in GT3. Could be 7th and 8th. But as you can see on the right hand side, Alpha's Legend gets a little bit of a better run out of that corner. The timer is currently running out right now, and that's where it stops. Alucard manages to hold on right at the end for that position, but crazy how close that was. So to wrap up, the GT3 class was won by James Nash. You can see the order in the top left there. James Nash won the GT3 class, with Double managing to just get ahead of 40 right at the end, and with a great sort of recovery drive. 40 in third, Thel 46 in fourth, with Tyler Durden, followed by Alucard and Alpha's Legend, as we just saw. Now in the GT1 class, Craig got a pretty commanding lead from the start from Chris and Abe Gunners. Then we have Hizen, VXWK and Jonty with Massacre Mace in 7th. Ryan did actually disconnect during that as well. And then for the GT2 class, I got the win there with the best lap in GT2, followed by Nismo, who managed to just stay ahead of Shred by the end, but they were battling for the last few laps, which was really interesting. Great race from Shred as well, good performance there. And then Camp Colin managed to get ahead of Zenzi in the closing stages, with Pardanias in 6th, followed by Imarogko and Moosted. I can't remember which way they were, but they were on the previous side. So the first bit of podium that we did this, which produced this amazing photo of that car flying over us. You know, perfect timing there. But the actual proper podium ceremony that we did was further down, and we got a bit of a better photo, which you'll see at the end. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. You know, a little bit different there in the rain as well. Good performance from myself. You know, I really enjoyed this one. Obviously, Blaine County 24 is just my kind of track. But you know, a brand new winner from James Nash in the GT3 field as well, and it looks to be a very interesting GT1 championship as well. Again, check the link in the description. You can see all the championship standings for all the classes and all the information for all future rounds as well. The next round will also be in the rain. We're back on Olympic Grand Prix using coupes. Again, all the information is in the description. That will be this Sunday. Be sure to come on Twitch and watch it live. It should be a really, really interesting one. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. Be sure to leave a like and all your comments down below. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.